Welcome back, Giants fans. Week number 7 game preview. Giants against the Carolina Panthers. Giants are home, 1 o'clock game on Sunday. Of course, the Giants are not in a good spot right now, coming in at 1-5. The Panthers are 3-3. They started out 3-0, have lost their last 3, so they're kind of struggling right now. I will say Carolina probably should have won last week. They were pretty much, I don't know if they were the better team on Sunday against the Vikings, but they played a good game. They went to overtime with Minnesota. They killed themselves with the drops. Their offensive line was bad. They had a lot of stupid penalties. I feel like Carolina, was better than what the outcome was last week against Minnesota. So I will say that to start off. Anyway, let's get into some of the key injuries, and of course the Giants have a ton of them. So Saquon Barkley, I believe, was announced out already. Same thing for Kenny Golladay. He's out. Kadarius Toney's out. Andrew Thomas, of course, placed on IR. I have not gone over that news yet on this channel, I believe, but Andrew Thomas is out for at least the next 3 games. So he'll probably be out past the bye because we play Carolina, someone else. I think they're up until the bye. Andrew Thomas is out. So won't be seeing him until November at least. Carolina's injuries, Shaq Thompson, who has missed the last 2 games, linebacker for them. He's a good player, was getting a lot of tackles, had a sack, had an interception so far this year, so he's been an impact player. He's missed the last 2 games. He is questionable so far. And, of course, Christian McCaffrey, running back, former Dave Gettleman pick, actually, the running back for Carolina, is on IR still, so he will be out this game, so that definitely will help the Giants. Now, for where the Panthers rank so far this year in their team statistics, the offense for the Panthers is 16th in the NFL in scoring, so right in the middle. Their offense is actually right in the middle for a lot of things. Their offensive rushing yards per game, 17th in the NFL, and their passing yards per game is 14th in the NFL. So very much a mediocre offense based on the numbers, but they have talent, let me say that. Defensively, points per game allowed, they are 6th best in the NFL. Defensive rushing yards allowed per game, they are 15th in the NFL. And here's the really good one. Defensive passing yards allowed per game, they are 2nd best in the NFL. So they have some really good corners on this team. Dante Jackson, they have now Stephon Gilmore might play this game, I heard. They have C.J. Henderson, who they traded for from Jacksonville. They have talent, and especially, on this team, they have a lot of young talent on that defense. They have Jeremy Chin, a very talented young safety. Their defensive line has very good names on it. We'll get into that in a little bit here. But yeah, this Carolina team is not a team that I take lightly. I will say, though, of the next 4 games for the Giants, this is probably the most winnable one. They have to find a way to win this game, and I do believe the Giants right now are 3-point underdogs. So I guess on a neutral field, Panthers would be 6-point favorites because the Giants are probably getting 3 points for being the home team. That's usually how it works. So I guess, yeah, Carolina's the better team. I can't deny that, but I do think there's a chance the Giants could get them here. Am I going to pick them to win? No, I'm not. I have to see it first. But I think there's a chance the Giants can get this one. They have to play a lot better than they have been lately. I know they've been playing some good teams like the Cowboys and the Rams, and obviously the Panthers are in a different class than those teams, but the Giants can't continue to play the same way they have, especially on defense, and expect to even beat this Carolina team. They can't beat anybody with the way they're playing right now. So anyway, I talked about the Panthers on the top. They have lost their last 3 games now. Forget who they lost to. It was the Vikings. They lost to, I don't even know. But they lost the last 3 games. They lost to Denver, I think. No, I forget now. I don't know. But they lost to 3 teams in a row here. But their offense the last 3 games has been really bad. So they have the most receiver drops in the NFL. I looked at the overall receiver drops in the NFL, and the Panthers have a lead there by a wide margin. So they're not helping Sam Darnold right now. Watching last week's game, I saw Robbie Anderson had multiple drops. I saw DJ Moore had multiple drops. So they are not helping their quarterback right now. And I think the way it is, I'm pretty sure Carolina had 16 team drops so far this year. The next closest team was 11, so they have 5 more than any other team. So if they help us with some drops this week, I'd be fine with that because our secondary has not really played up to our standards so far. So anyway, they have allowed 12 sacks the past 3 games. That's definitely not what you want to see if you're a Carolina fan. They have Cam Irving at left tackle, definitely very questionable over there. I feel like the only offensive lineman on that team that's really playing well is Taylor Moton, who's the right tackle. So outside of him, it's nobody on that offensive line is really worth, talking about in a positive way. They have not played well. But in defense for Carolina, our pass rush is awful. The only guy that's somewhat getting pressure consistently is Leonard Williams. We sometimes see it from Azeez Ojulari, but the Giants are getting nothing from their outside linebacker group, especially guys like Lorenzo Carter and O'Shane Ximines. Maybe they put Carter Coughlin there more this week. He played some snaps last week at linebacker, inside linebacker, but maybe we see some Cam Brown snaps at outside linebacker. I don't know. Maybe some Quincy Roche if he's activated. We'll see, but I don't know if they're going to stick with the same guys because, honestly, Carter and Ximines have been invisible so far this year. So, yeah, their offensive line struggling in Carolina. Sam Darnold has thrown 6 interceptions in the past 3 games, and as we know, Sam started out the year very nicely. He played some pretty easy opponents, played the Jets, he played Houston, they played some other team, and they weren't good either. It might have been Jacksonville, I think they played, and Sam Darnold started out the year very nicely, but he's kind of been falling off lately, so, Sam is still a talented guy. I'm sure there's people watching this video that wanted Sam Darnold back in that 2018 draft a few years back, so we know Sam Darnold's a talented kid, but he has the ability to make mistakes, especially if he's pressured, but that's my problem here. I don't know if we can pressure him. That's why I was so, I know Matthew Stafford threw an interception last week, and the Rams had 2 total because the backup Wolford threw one as well. But that's why I was so confident in Matthew Stafford having a good game is because we don't get pass rush. And if you give Sam Darnold 4 seconds in the pocket consistently to find an open guy, he's going to find them. Sam Darnold's not a complete scrub. So if they pressure him, sure, they'll force him into some bad decisions. But with the way we rush the quarterback or lack thereof, I feel like Sam Darnold might have a good game here. So we'll find out how that goes. So anyway, some of the key matchups and notes here. The defensive line right now for the Panthers, they are playing at a pretty high level. So they signed Hassan Reddick, who was a pass rusher with the Cardinals, who we actually faced last year. I think we faced the Cardinals the last 2 years, actually. And Hassan Reddick went off last year against us. I think he had 5 sacks. He had 4 against Andrew Thomas and 1 against somebody else. So he destroyed the Giants last year at MetLife, so Hassan Reddick definitely has some good games here. And Brian Burns is a guy that I'm sure a lot of Giants fans are still salty about missing on in the draft on one of them. So the way it worked was Brian Burns in the 2019 draft was taken 16th overall, and the Giants missed out on him by 1 pick, and then they took Dexter Lawrence 17th overall. Obviously, Brian Burns would have been a much better pick so far. Burns hasn't been ridiculous this year, but he's still playing pretty well. So Brian Burns is a guy I respect. He's a very talented kid, and he's going to go against Matt Parrott most of the game, who is the left tackle now. So that is concerning in itself. We saw Matt Parrott have that terrible rep, and I went over that in the film review against, I don't know who it was against, but he let up a strip sack and a fumble to Daniel Jones and the Rams defense last week. Now, Hassan Reddick is going to go up against Nate Solder most of the time, and I don't like that matchup either. I mean, Nate Solder had some good reps last week. I'll say he had some reps last week where he was fine, but Nate Solder also gives you those 5 to 10 passing down snaps every week that he looks horrendous. So, yeah, I feel like Hassan Reddick may get him 2 or 3 times in this game, so I'm definitely concerned about that. And Daniel Jones, look, he's not in a position to have a great game here. I mean, we just talked about how the Panthers have the second best passing defense in the NFL so far this year, and Daniel Jones' main weapons are going to be an injured Sterling Shepard dealing with the hamstring issue. Evan Ingram's highly questionable, it sounds like. Dante Pettis, Colin Johnson, whoever, Caden Smith, Kyle Rudolph, and what's left of him. It's not the best situation. Now, I will say, not to be a complete Daniel Jones homer here, whatever you want to call it, but Daniel Jones could have played better last week. I will say that. The interceptions were bad. He missed Pettis on an out route. He also missed Pettis on a curl route as well. Daniel Jones did not play well in his own right last week. I will say, I think everyone on offense played like crap, honestly. So, if Jones gives us a really good performance on Sunday and the Giants can put up around 20 points, it's possible. I could see the Giants winning this game 23-20. It's not impossible. Once again, I can't pick them to win because of all the crap I've seen going on here, plus the injuries on top of it. So I would be a little surprised if they won, but it wouldn't shock me either. It's not like they would beat the Rams or the Cowboys here. So, once again, this Panthers team should not be taken like a total joke, but they're not in the class of the teams we just played. So, don't let DJ Moore beat you. So, yeah, DJ Moore is a very talented young receiver. I think a former second-round pick out of Maryland. He got off to a really good start, kind of slowed down here the past 2 games, but DJ Moore is still a very good player. Probably a good chance he has over 80 receiving yards in this game or something like that. So the Giants have had a lot of problems covering the top receivers so far this year. And, we saw it with Terry McLaurin. We saw Jerry Jeudy tear up this defense week 1. We saw CeeDee Lamb beat James Bradbury. Last week we saw Cooper Kupp have a monster game. So if you're a talented wide receiver and you want to get right game, face the Giants. It's pretty much what I'm saying here. So DJ Moore is not the guy that I want to beat us. I think Terrace Marshall, who is their rookie this year out of LSU, he is questionable, I believe. I don't know if it's a concussion still or something else. He had a concussion. I feel like that was a while ago. I don't know, but I think he's questionable, so we'll see if he plays. Robbie Anderson, the former Jets wide receiver, is still there. Of course, like Robbie Anderson has been getting a lot of targets the past few weeks. He had 11 targets last week and only had like 3 catches. I mentioned before he had drops in this game or last game, but Robbie Anderson definitely can beat you over the top. You guys know Robbie Anderson. He is a speed threat, and I'm sure he can get behind this defense 1 or 2 times probably, so the Giants have to be aware of him as well. But DJ Moore is the offensive weapon I'm really concerned about. Even Chuba Hubbard, the running back who's filling in for Christian McCaffrey once again, he's not a bad player. Like, I feel like Chuba Hubbard is not, he's not like Christian McCaffrey level of a player because they don't utilize him as much, but Chuba Hubbard has some explosiveness to his game. He's a fine receiver, has had some drops this year, but he's a fine receiver for the most part, very athletic and shifty. So, he's a running back not to take lightly as well. So Chuba Hubbard I'd watch out for. The Giants' run defense has not been what we expected it to be so far this year, but also Carolina's offensive line has struggled, so I feel like they want to go through the air more rather than run the ball with Chuba Hubbard, but we'll find out what Matt Rule and Joe Brady decide to do with the offensive game plan this week here. So how can the Giants offense score? I mean, this is I missed that one actually. Sam Darnold. Does Sam Darnold bounce back? I think he does. I think Sam Darnold's going to have a pretty nice game here. I don't expect Darnold to have like 400 passing yards, but I think Darnold's going to have like a 250 passing yard and 2 touchdown type game, like something to get him back in the right direction. So I don't expect him to kill the Giants defense, but I think Darnold has a better game here. Hopefully he has a turnover or 2 that would help the Giants win this game a lot, but I just feel like Sam Darnold's going to have a nice game here and a bounce back for him. Now, how does the Giants offense score? Now, as I mentioned before, the run defense for Carolina is middle of the pack. You can run on them. Can the Giants do it with Devontae Booker and their lack of run blocking? Maybe not. But, last week my strategy for hoping to beat this Rams defense was to try and beat them deep because, I feel like dinking and dunking against them was not going to work out and prove that was true. This week, though, I want to attack them more on the ground. I feel like I kind of want to take some pressure off Daniel Jones. We saw last week that Devontae Booker on the first drive had a couple nice runs. He had like a 15-yard run. I think he had like an 8 or 9-yard run. Like Devontae Booker, while he wasn't a game changer, he had like 13 carries for 41 yards or something. But Devontae Booker showed in that first drive last week against the good Rams defense that, he can do something sometimes. I want to give him at least like 13 to 15 carries and start the game plan off early with a lot of run plays for the Giants and let Daniel Jones kind of settle in. Like, don't let Daniel Jones, don't feed him to the wolves and have Matt Parrott or Nate Solder go up against 2 really good edge rushers and have Daniel Jones fumble on the first play of the game like we saw last week. So I kind of want to get the running game going first. If that fails, then you kind of got to go to a pass heavy thing. But like, still, I want to start the game off trying to go kind of run heavy, but we'll see what the Giants do here. So yeah, I mean, could a loss here mean 1-9 for the Giants? Because right now they are 1-5 here entering Week 7, and we all know it has not gone the way we've wanted it to so far this year. Now, if the Giants lose this game, they would go to 1-6, and then next week they play at Kansas City on a Monday night, I believe. That's probably going to be a loss. That's 1-7. Then they play Las Vegas at home. I think they're kind of beatable. Like we've seen games where Las Vegas kind of craps the bed this year. Anything can happen. I mean, Las Vegas has not played well in MetLife recently. They played the Jets the past 2 years in MetLife. They lost one of them very badly, and they should have lost last year, but then the Jets defensive coordinator had other ideas to tank that game. But yeah, they have not played well at MetLife. Maybe going across the country is difficult for them. I get that. But Las Vegas is a team that definitely can beat us. I'm not going to act like that's not a possibility. And then, of course, they play Tampa coming out the bye. So we're talking about a situation where this team could be 1-9 if they drop this game. Now, let me say this. If the Giants win this game, does that mean that the season's saved and they're going to make the playoffs? No. But I do think this is a game where they have to win if they have any shot whatsoever of making any type of push for the playoffs in the second half. If the Giants lose this game, I tweeted this out as well. It actually got a pretty decent response. Like, I figured some people would hate it, but I tweeted out before yesterday that if the Giants lose this game, I'm going to be at a point where I just don't care whether they win or lose going forward. Because if you're 1-6, and of course the Cowboys are 5-1 in this division, you have this very tough schedule coming up where I think there's at least 2 automatic losses. Yes, you got to play the games, I get it, but playing Kansas City, playing Tampa Bay with a team like this, it's not going to go well for the Giants, and in all likelihood. So I'm going to be at a point now where if they're 1-6 and have this tough schedule coming up, it's not going to, I'm going to be numb to it. I'm already kind of numb to it. I'm sure a lot of us are. Like, I'm not going to be pissed off anymore if they lose. I'm not going to let it ruin my day like it usually does. If they want to lose and not really give a damn on the field and give these half-ass efforts, then you know what? Why should I care? That's the way I look at it. So, it's still going to bother me in a way because you don't want to see your team lose, but I'm also a very forward-thinking person, which I wish Dave Gettleman was, because the Giants would be in a better spot right now. But I always look forward to does winning games at 1-9 do us any good? I mean, maybe for the morale and Joe Judge keeping his job, yes, it helps in that regard. But I feel like by the point, if you're 1-9 or 2-8, I just don't know what winning does for you in a positive way looking at the future. And everyone argues most people argue that, well, having the 12th pick is fine because you can still take a great player at 12, which you could, but having a top 5 pick, it doesn't guarantee you to get a great player, but it gives you a better chance of getting a great player. That's why the good players in the NFL draft go towards the top. We know that. So, the higher your pick is in the draft, I feel like the better chance you have of getting an actual really good player. So, if the Giants made a push here in the second half and dropped in the draft to pick number 15 or 16, it's not the end of the world, but I'd rather pick in the top 5 than pick 16 and not make the playoffs. You know what I mean? So that's the way I look at it. I know not everyone's going to agree, but that's the way I look at it. So once again, if they lose this game, it's kind of, for me mentally, it's it's over. They're not making the playoff. I still, as a fool that I am, have some, slither of hope that they can maybe make a push here and, get 2 wins here, maybe steal one from the Raiders in a couple weeks, maybe steal one from the Chiefs or Bucks. That's, I don't know. As fans, we kind of talk ourselves into crazy scenarios, but I know that the realistic side of me probably does not expect that to happen, but you never know. So, that'll pretty much do it. I think it's a must-win. Once again, I've said that a few times this year, but they really got to win this game or else things might get very ugly. And I talked about this before on Twitter as well, that this is a big game for Joe Judge. I mean, there's a lot of people, myself included, that are Joe Judge believers. I will admit, I have kind of lost some faith in Joe Judge based on how this year has gone so far. But coming into this year, myself, I'm sure many of you watching this video were big Joe Judge believers. And so far, it has not gone the way that I'm sure Joe Judge wants or anybody wants as a Giants fan. But this is a big game for him because last week we saw in the second half especially, there were some guys that were, I hate to use the word quit, but there were some guys not giving their max effort in the second half of that Rams game. Of course, the Giants were down 28-3 at halftime. We knew the game was over, but the Giants, of course, they still had their starters out there in the third quarter and even the fourth quarter. And we saw some plays where Cooper Kupp caught that one touchdown on the misdirection, and he threw it to him to the left, and you had, Bradbury was jogging. You saw Reggie Ragland wasn't giving the best effort, and Julian Love wasn't giving the best effort. You saw guys in the secondary that were just kind of they were kind of over it. They were ready to move on and get out of there with a loss. So, I'm sure Joe Judge does not like that. And when you're a team that's 1-5, 1-6, and your guys are just dogging it on defense, it's not a good look for you as a head coach because Joe Judge, when he was brought here, I'm sure one of the things that John Mara loved about him was how he's this 60-minute guy and we're gonna play to the final whistle and all that crap, and they are not doing that so far. There's more. The Giants always say the right things. I'll put it this way: they always say the right things to the media, and Joe Judge always says the right things, but they have not really shown it so far this year. So if you have guys giving 70% effort, 60% effort in the second half of this game, and the Giants lose by 2 or 3 scores, it's going to be a bad look for Joe Judge. I will say that. So, this is a game that, once again, is one of the more winnable games in the next month or so for the Giants. So, in my opinion, they have to win it or else things might get very ugly. They're already ugly, but they might get very ugly if the Giants lose this game, especially by multiple scores. If the Giants lose 23-20 and they lose on a game-winning field goal, which has happened before, once again, Graham Gano, revenge game here for Graham Gano, by the way. But if they lose in a very heartbreaking fashion, or the Giants play well throughout most of the game and they lose in a high-scoring fashion or something like that, then it's more easy to deal with that than, I'm sure for John Mara at least, it's more easy to deal with that and have your guys compete rather than the Panthers to come here and steamroll the Giants and win like 30-13. Like, that's not what you want to see. So it's a big game for Joe Judge. I want him to be here in the future. I do still have hope that Joe Judge is our head coach of the future, but I don't know. Now I kind of have more questions about it, which is fair. So anyway, that'll do it for this video. Don't know who's going to win, but once again, the Giants have a chance. They have a legitimate chance. I did not feel that way last week. Didn't really feel that way against Dallas, but they have a legitimate chance here to win this game, and hopefully they find a way to do it because the losing does not feel good. I'll put it that way. So anyway, that'll do it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys next time.